Good morning, good morning. Hello, hello. Good morning, Donna. Welcome. John, how are you in the Great North Woods? Good to see you. Hope you, good to see everybody. Welcome. Hey, Michelle. Hey. Good. How are you? Speaking of the Great North Woods, you guys are up there. Good morning, Priscilla. Great to see you. Hope Ohio is treating you all right. Good morning, Irene. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. It's good to see you. I saw I saw your boy was down in our neck of the woods. He and Sarah were picking up a new adventure that looks great. Good for them. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Glad to see you. It is this very weird weather day here. It's this kind of gray, doesn't know what it is. On the full moon, that's got all kinds of wonkiness going on here today. So glad you're with us. Glad you're with us. So going sailing Friday. Very good. Excellent. That's good to hear. September is the best sailing month as far as I'm concerned. Like the wind comes up, everything, the fog is gone. Like you're this is a treat. Yep, good for you. That's great. So good morning. It is, and we are back for another 11:11 at um, on the second day of September. The back to school pictures are starting to hit the Facebook, which is always a kind of a fun thing. Ryan wouldn't he would have none of our back to school pictures, even though he's homeschooling this year. But that everybody in all the different ways that people are going back to school, and the part back to school, and the sometimes back to school, and even some schools, particularly down here in Rhode Island, they haven't even really made the decisions about how they're going back to schools yet, if you can believe that. So the, this that that as we were talking yesterday about the continuation of this, like, man, we are still very upended in our world and in our life, and we're not kind of worrying about getting pencils and spiral notebooks for going back to school. We have worries and ideas that are way deeper than that in terms of what we're contending with. So we will continue this ministry. We're going to continue to journey on. As I said, I will let you know I will be away for the week after for some study leave, but we will continue to journey. So on this 11:11, we started with this quote from Uncle Walter. I have my little group of miscreants here, Robin, Seth, Jeremy, and myself. So they encourage me, and Robin over here, who has the opportunity to actually have lunch with Uncle Walter Brueggemann, and so she is elevated status amongst us all. All of this is that we're going to spend a little time with this prophetic word that he has for the church, and that when we say the church, again, remember we're talking about the steeple, like people, there's all the people, like we're the church, friends, you and me, like we're it. Like we're, I don't care how often you darken a door. I don't care the fact that we are here, journeying together in this time and in this place and in these days, wherever you are. But we're in the same place. We've got a spiritual place we're sharing right now. We've got a heart place that you and I are sharing. And I hope you feel that. I hope you know I do. I do. I want you to know that I do. That I'm not. This is not just me pouring myself into digits. This is me spending time with you. I have a true feeling of that. It's one of the reasons I've continued to be convicted about going forward with this. That wherever you are and whatever's going on, and whether you're here in the city and a part of the Fall River community and helping our city negotiate all that's going on, or whether you're in some far flung place, you are a part of the church, and the church has this prophetic word for it. It has this word of, there are some things that you have to say. There are some things that you have to do that you may not want to have said and you may not want to be doing, but they need to be done because the world needs them. The world needs us. And not only that, we need to pour ourselves into the world. We need to pour ourselves into the world. When Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me, he's talking about pouring ourselves into what it is that we will be a part of in ministry, what we will be. And so, Uncle Walter's words from yesterday. The prophetic tasks of the church are to tell the truth in a society that lives in illusion. Yes, that's what we talked about yesterday. To grieve in a society that practices denial. That's what we're going to talk about today. And to express hope in a society that lives in despair. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. There's Uncle Walter peeking around the corner at us. That if he doesn't look like an Old Testament prophet, I don't know who does. Like, he's awesome. And but I want to talk about this sense of grieving in a society that practices denial. This the sense of grieving in a society that practices denial. You see, when we talk about grieving, a lot of the first thing that we talk about sometimes is we just talk about crying. We talk about weeping. Jesus weeps. They say Jesus weeps 3 times. When you look it up in the scholars, they say Jesus weeps 3 times. I think Jesus really weeps 2 times. Because the third time is, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm buying it. Let's talk about the times that Jesus weeps, where Jesus grieves for a society that was in complete denial. That what in a society that believed power, that might made right, the power was the ultimate end game. To take something away from another, if you could take it away, you should take it away. You had every right to take it away simply by the fact that you were more powerful. That world of denial of the good, of denial of the right, denial of what really matters, denial of beauty. There's profound grief in that. And to grieve in a society that practices denial. Our society, the world that we're living in, practices denial around the things that it has lost. It does. It just does. That if you don't know that, just consider how we treat our dead. You see, because that's the way I think the two things that where Jesus weeps. Jesus weeps for Lazarus, his friend. In fact, one of his dear friends. And he sees Mary and Martha weeping when he comes to Bethany. He sees their sorrow. He sees the sorrow of the crowd. And he sees that his friend has died. And he weeps for him. So there's this sense where Jesus does not, even though Jesus knows that Lazarus is going to be resurrected in just a second. Get it? Jesus knows it's going to be okay. Jesus knows that he is going to smile and laugh and be in joy with his friend once again. They are going to have dinners in Bethany around Martha's fantastic table of beautiful and gorgeous food. Len Sweet is very insistent that Jesus loved Martha's cooking, and he has a whole way that he lays out, and he's convinced me. Like, I think there's this way, there's relationship between Mary and Martha and Lazarus and all of those that came together in Bethany, this place of radical hospitality. It was the one place in all of creation where Jesus could just have friends and be loved, and his friend has died, and he weeps in it, even though he knows he's about to be resurrected, even though he knows that he's about to see him again face to face, even though he knows that he honors the loss in the middle of everything that's going on, even though He knows that loss is only going to be for a short while. Because the denial of the loss, the denial of the grief, is to break relationship with the people around them. You know, you ever had some that happen to you? Like when somebody says to you, like you have something you're heartbroken about, and maybe it's a big thing, maybe it's a little thing, but you're heartbroken about it. It's a real loss for you. And that somebody just says, "Oh, it'll be fine," or just pray about it, or just, "Oh, Lord will take care of it." They dismiss away your grief. It's a break in relationship, isn't it? You kind of like, doesn't mean you love them less. Doesn't mean that, their mom doesn't love them. Doesn't mean they're, Jesus isn't going to take them to heaven. Like, doesn't mean any of that. It just means there's like this way of like, oh my gosh, here's the most tender, most powerful, most important, most beautiful thing to me right now in this second, not like forever, but just right now in this second. And I'm sharing that with you I have a friend of mine that he was a chaplain in Iraq, and through some of the most sporty times there, he saw the worst of human horror. In his time there, he lost friends, dear friends, immediately with him, and years later, he's back on an installation somewhere, and he's standing with a doctor. It's a part of the doc's a part of his unit, and he's talking with this doctor, and he tells him one of these stories. He just because it happens to be appropriate to the moment. And he says he remembers one time in Iraq when a friend of his died, and how that kind of haunts him. And he says, and the doc looked at him and he said, hey, do you want something for that? Because I there's some good drugs that work for that. Do you want something for that? And he looked at him. He says, "Nah, man, I just wanted to tell my story." You see, we're conflicted and we are confounded, and find ourselves in a world in which the story has been radically, abruptly ended because it's a society that denies the story we're in. It denies the story we're in on every level, not just. And I'm not just talking about death. Like, we deny the story on death. If you think about how we handle our dead, we are really minimalized around who we permit to see who has died and why they died, and we shroud it in mystery and all of this, and the great folks in the funeral service, help to facilitate grief, and even in the midst of this how much we don't want to look at the fact that people are no longer with us, or people are dying, or the hard pieces around death. So we do it with death, but we do it with economics too. We do it with violence too. We do it with everything. We're in this. We abbreviate. We abrupt our story. We won't tell the full story because we can't bear to tell the story of grief. Because we just want to put something on it. We just want to give a pill. We just want to tamp that stuff down. The old. The old Marge Simpson, just push it down, Lisa, just push it down. That we don't want to enter into the grief of our society. I don't care where you are. Like, I think about anything. Economically, the U.S. dollar right now is worth 96% less than it was in 1912. If you took a nickel in 1912, that dollar today will buy 96% fewer goods than it would buy in 1912. Okay? That's a loss. That's a radical loss. Real wages haven't changed since 1986. We're talking about we continue to work on a smaller and smaller share. Now I don't want to talk about solutions. I don't talk about any of that. That's we can't even have that conversation until we at first have the conversation of a society that is grieving and won't admit it. How many precious, beautiful things of your childhood. I don't know how old you are, but even if you're the youngest among us, how many things of your childhood are now completely and utterly obsolete? completely and utterly obsolete, either by technology, either by the way the world has moved, even by all of it. There's nearly all of it, right? I mean, you know, nearly everything in your early days. Your rotary dial telephone, your notepad, your black book you kept your numbers in. And think about it. That largely things have so radically transformed, and that we're grieving that, and we're just in constant denial of it. We're in constant denial of it. And when we can't do it, we can't finish our story. We can't get to the resurrection. Because the other time that Jesus, oh, by the way, the other time that Jesus cries is when he stands on the mount of and looks over Jerusalem, and he says, "Jerusalem, O Jerusalem," like that he weeps for his city, he weeps for his community because he sees how broken and how hurt and how messed up the world is, and he sees even on to his death and resurrection. He knows it's going to get fixed. Like he's the fixer, by the way. He's the guy who's going to fix it. He knows it's going to get fixed. And yet he still grieves in it so that the story can be told. So that the story can be told. Friends, tell your stories of grief. And then now, like, put our COVID on top of that. All of the, we've talked about this numerous times here. All of the things that we have lost and that we're denying that we lose. Because for whatever reason we're doing it. Like, we're not even doing it for good reasons, just to get through, just to soldier on, just stiff upper lip, all that sort of thing. Whatever we're doing, like, we're not even doing it for good reasons, because we're so afraid to tell the fullness of our story about what we've lost in our life, in our innocence, in our peace, in our hearts, in our ability to receive and know that we are children of God, made in the image of God, loved beyond measure, our ability to kind of enter into that place. We have to go through the valley of sorrow. We have to go, and that we live in a society of denial around that. Everything in our society denies that. So I think the prophetic tasks, and honestly, for me as a pastor, a lot of time I find I am most prophetic in this moment often. That when people tell me as part of their story, and I say, boy, that sounds really sad. And the people's response to that are amazing. I mean, I'm just pointing out, look, sad. Like, I'm not, there's no great intuitive practice happening here. I'm just naming, but I'm the possibly the one person in their life, or one of the few people in their life, that have not engaged in the denial of the culture and said, "Oh my God, that you're right. It is sad. You're right. It has broken my heart that my daughter's not going to her junior prom. It has broken my heart that people I know are can't get to work and are being held up by the apparatus of the disease and state and all this sort of stuff. Like, it does, like, that the anxiety and uncertainty that happens around all that is based in this profound valley of sorrow, and just the pointing it out allows them to continue their story, allows them to tell the story all the way to the resurrection, to the moment that it'll be made new. To the moment that it'll be made new. So my invitation for you, and Uncle Walter's invitation here, is that we grieve in a society that practices denial. Grieve. Don't let the denial of our society. If it is sad, it's sad. Let it be sad. And let people call you what they will. Let them do with you what they will. Let them respond what they will. But the very nature of our world, and for me in the church, it's never more true that I worship in a sanctuary on a Sunday morning that was once packed and held 400 people. And now it's a good Sunday in the midst of COVID if we have 40 people. There's grief in that. There's losses in the changes of our society. and there's no there's no disloyalty to God in pointing that out. There's no lack of faith in that. Quite the opposite. That when we stand in our beautiful Bethanies, the things we should have the courage to do is to cry with each other and stop the denial of all of our griefs so that the story of the resurrection can come forward. All right, folks, that's my hope for you today, is that you'll step into the griefs of your days and stop the denial around you, because the world desperately needs you, desperately needs us. The world and everybody you encounter, the people you encounter, needs to stop just trying to gut it out and deny that there have not been so many radical changes and that those changes are breaking our hearts every minute, and that will allow us and will allow them and allow all of us to go forward and to write the next chapter of our stories, in which we find the resurrection of Lazarus, the rising of Jerusalem, and the glory of God in our midst. Tomorrow we're going to talk about hope. We're going to talk about this courage to express hope in a society that lives in despair. That's our journey with Uncle Walter next week. So friends, I hope you have a great day. I hope you will step out of the denial around the things that you grieve, and don't just do it for you, but when you do that, you do it for all of us, and you give permission to the wider world to wake up from its own denial, and to open to the grace that God has for them too. All right. I am so glad all of you are here. Thank you so much for journeying with me this morning. We have been a great. Hey, Amy, Kim Luce is here. Deb Votrin, hello, hello, hello. I'm just catching everybody coming in. That's great. Vicky, hello, hello. So great. So glad you're all here this morning. I will. You are all in my prayers. And we will pick it up tomorrow. Peace and grace, friends.